In terms of institutional mechanism, both from a quality point of view as well as an IPR point of view, what more can we see from the Chinese experience?
Well, as Professor Ye just mentioned that China actually is shifting from made in China to created in China. And the Chinese government actually, they're realizing that they no longer want to build China's economy based on low cost, low price, low quality goods. So they are actually trying to foster a better environment for industry to innovate, to increase product quality, and to move up to the value chain. The recent very important documents issued by the China State Council actually is the documents how to drive China's further development through innovation. And this is a document all the way from the Central Committee of the party and the State Council. It includes one point focusing on IP protection.
Okay.
Trade secret and several others. So
from an IP protection point of view, what are the measures that we've actually seen the government take to give comfort to investors, both domestic as well as foreign?
I think one of the very shining point that we have seen is a criminal protection for IP. And in terms of civil, as you probably are aware, now China set up the IP courts in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. And the authority in Beijing, they are researching on how to improve the legal framework for trade secret protection. So I think that all these are positive signs. But the IP infringement pattern, they don't stand still. They keep on evolving. So this is going to be a long-term battle, both for China and India. So I've been monitoring the India STI policy. So I think that this is a great policy, and if I can actually bold enough to make some recommendation.
Yes, please do.
The national technology called standard setting has been a key focus in China's national innovation policy. As far as I know, it's not included in India's policy. And also IP protection. The corresponding policy to drive China's innovation has heavy focus on strengthening IP protection. And I think that to make the foreign investor feel that India could be a future paradise for setting up R&D center. In fact, one of the 4 largest R&D center of General Electric is in Bangalore. Right. But I think emphasizing on IP protection will be a great incentive for foreign investor, even domestic investor, to make investment in India.
Professor Yip, let me ask you this, and taking forward the point that Mr. Chang was making about moving from made in China to created in China, and that's also got to do with building brands, and that's not something that Chinese companies have been known for. How much has that changed, and is there an acknowledgement now at the corporate level in terms of what companies need to do in order to make Chinese brands aspirational?
Well,
and respected.
Yes, I mean some of the bigger companies are doing this. You know, a classic one is Haier, which is the domestic appliances company, which is probably the best-known brand, best-known Chinese brand outside internationally. And they recognize also that the way to build the brand is through quality and for having innovative products. They realize that now. And even B2B companies like Huawei, one of the most innovative companies in China, are now trying to promote their name around the world. Of course, what has held them back in the past is partly because of the counterfeiting. You know, why invest in a brand if somebody else can counterfeit your product? But indeed, see, Chinese, I think the move toward the consumer society will also help, because Chinese consumers are extremely brand conscious, in fact, more brand conscious than in the West. So I think that's a spur for Chinese companies to build their brand names more.
And I just wanted to pick up on the point that you mentioned a short while ago on innovations which are relevant for this market. What kind of innovations are you seeing which cater to the domestic market and then could be exported to other emerging markets like China, or perhaps to countries like India even?
Well, of course, many of the initial innovations were for smaller, cheaper products. So that's the basis of what companies have been doing. I mean, Haier is a good example of this. Haier is famous for adaptations such as they found that farmers were washing potatoes in their washing machines, so they adapted the washing machine to do that. But they took this experience and learned to innovate, say, for the American market. So in the US, Haier created a 3-compartment refrigerator with an in-between temperature in order to store the food that is the most important for Americans, which is ice cream. You can eat it as soon as you take it out, because we know that Americans don't like to wait. Now, so, Haier really showing creativity, something it learned to do in China, but also it's typical of a Chinese company that it takes a lot of engineering hours and manufacturing capability to develop a refrigerator with a 3rd compartment. So it's not cheap, and it's not surprising a Chinese company is doing that. So that's the kind of innovation that Chinese companies are bringing to the West. Well, Huawei innovated by recognizing that office space is restricted, so in its base stations, it came up with a distributed base station where the bulkier part of it is put in the basement, something it learned first in China and is exported around the world.
Vishal, in China, I believe Shenzhen is known as the innovation capital because of the number of patents that get filed there. But in terms of innovation in India, do you think Bangalore would be counted as the innovation capital? And if it is to be Bangalore, because largely IT services hub, but when we talk about product, when you talk about innovation, we talk about startups, what is it that you would like to see in terms of the learning curve from here on?
I think, Bangalore is certainly a hotbed of startup activity. There are others that are emerging, Hyderabad, Chennai, of course, Mumbai and Delhi, Pune, many other places. So, in terms of what will need to happen, I think the first key thing, we have had a culture of startups. It's just that we haven't had enough. And I think there is an increased activity. So we need to encourage people to become bold, to try out their ideas, to risk failure. And things of this nature which go with being an entrepreneur. What I see missing in the Indian startup community, in the Indian startup scene, is a creative confidence. That is one area that we can. Steve Jobs used to have this famous saying that the important thing in life is to realize that everything around us was built by people who are no superior than us, and therefore you can do the same thing. And that mindset is the first and foremost thing that needs to happen. And then we need to see enough startups that achieve scale, and once they have that scale, then they will, then we will see more and more of this happen, and it will become a virtuous cycle. What we are doing to help that is obviously we have started this fund, the Innovate in India fund, $250 million, and we just launched that, in fact, yesterday in Silicon Valley at the TiCon event. And we are also working on an incubator where we can, in fact, encourage companies to take advantage of our magnificent physical spaces to come and come up with their ideas there and so forth. So there are things that we can do as Infosys.
Appreciate you joining us here on this special CNBC TV 18 discussion. Thank you very much for your time. With that, it's time for us to wrap up this special edition of Engaging the Dragon. From all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.